Hi everyone, Lady Rose here with you, and I wanted to do this video because one of my most popular courses that I am a Sherpa for, because I often call myself a spiritual Sherpa, is the shadow work course. Now, the reason I started this shadow work course was partly because I started hearing shadow work a few years ago, maybe even longer, or I can't quite remember, but people started batting that term around, and of course it sounds cool because it's dark and it's mysterious and what does it mean, and you would hear spiritual coaches and life coaches and whatnot saying, oh, you've got to do your shadow work so that you can live your better life or your best life or whatever it might be. And so I have been doing shadow work with clients for a very long time, but also clients started asking me, what does this term shadow work mean? What does it mean to get to know your shadows, to get into your shadows, to sit in your shadows, blah, blah, blah. So the shadow work means a lot of different things, and there's a lot of ways you can deal with it. Now, I'm going to be doing a series of shadow work. I'm going to actually basically be putting my shadow work course online. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me, and there is a paid wall kind of thing behind this shadow work course. So if you want to be a part of it and take the course online, please let me know and I'll get you hooked up. So what is shadow work? Shadow work comes from a few different things. Your shadows are the parts of you that often get hidden. That's why they're in the shadows. And it often involves hurt and trauma and abuse and things like that. And it can come from many different areas. It can come from your childhood, is obviously a big one. So any kind of, especially big hurts, like if you've been sexually molested, if you were abused as a child by your parents or by a caregiver, and it doesn't have to be an ongoing, like my mother abused me all my life kind of thing. It can be, I had an abusive moment with a caregiver, and that can affect you for the rest of your life. And even like some childhood playground stuff can stay with you. And that is what is working through your shadow is bringing awareness to some of that hurt, that trauma that may have happened, so that you're not allowing it to control you and allowing it to influence situations, decisions, outlook on life that you now have. You could have been teased about something silly on the playground, and that has stayed with you, and that has knocked your self-confidence for the rest of your life. So don't think that, well, I don't have any big shadows because, my mother and father were great. They always loved me. They never abused me and whatnot. Maybe they lost their temper once or twice, but that was it, kind of thing. So a lot of people tend to want to come to my shadow work course with huge traumas, like big, massive ones. And you don't have to have big, massive ones. We all have shadows, all of us. The other thing about shadow work is the point of it is to get yourself out of that victimhood mentality. Now, a lot of times I have clients that want to come in and do shadow work, and really they want to just dump what they've been through, and they want to rehash, and they want to relive being that victim. Now, this is something that I call tough love, where I won't let you do that. I empathize. I understand. We all have some trauma, some hurt somewhere in our lives. It may have come from our childhood. It may have come from past lives, stuff we're bringing over, because sometimes we, have inexplicable fears, or why is it when I'm making a decision about this, I, get all nervous and anxious about it. It might be a past life thing. And it can, we can experience trauma as adults as well. And when that happens at that point in our adulthood, from there on in, we are, viewing things with that tainted color in our glasses, so to speak, right? They say, wearing rose-colored glasses, you see the goodness and everything. Well, you can also have glasses that aren't rose-colored, that are actually tainted with the energy of abuse, with the energy of being hurt, especially with heartache. As adults, heartache really gets to us. If someone's cheated on you, or someone just decides, you're in a partnership with them, obviously, and they just say, I just need to go, and they don't give any explanation why, that can really crush a heart. And sometimes it's really, really hard to come back from. And so we carry that trauma forward into other relationships. And that's what shadow work really is. And it's really about healing. It's about sitting with yourself and healing. Now, it doesn't always have to be an emotional thing. It could be that it's a physical thing. And I'm not talking about physical abuse. I'm talking about, you could have gotten into a car accident. And maybe, now, whenever you drive on the highway, or you can't get back on the highway because that's where the accident happened, and it just is, you've created a block there now out of fear. Maybe a dog attacked you. It's horrible, but not all dogs are vicious dogs, right? So now you're scared of all dogs, even the smallest and the kindest and the goofiest of the dogs, kind of thing. So it doesn't always have to be an emotional or spiritual hurt. It can be a physical one that you have to come back from. I myself was diagnosed with cancer in 2010, and it took me some time to come back from that because, mentally I was fighting the game, and I won, thank God, but it took a lot off of me from mentally, a lot of my energy, spiritually and physically. So, if you're a survivor of cancer, that could be a shadow that's now affecting you in ways that maybe we don't even realize, right? That's what bringing awareness to your shadow, bringing awareness to some of the hurts and traumas and fears that we have, logical or illogical, it doesn't matter. They're all shadow, and sitting with them helps you to bring energy and awareness to them, so that when you're aware of them, then you can change it if you want to. But I often say, if you want to heal in shadow work, it's a choice. So it's not it's not a bitch fest, which sometimes people mistake it for. Look at how badly I was hurt. I'm so angry because this person did this to me, and the head starts going, and the eyes are wide and the mouth is open. You should talk about your trauma in the mirror and see if you start doing any of those things. And that means that you really need to pay attention to wanting to sit with your shadows and truly healing or rehashing. I know I've been guilty of rehashing. I wanted to be look at me, look how much I've been hurt. I'm a victim here, and horrific things happened. And I know horrific things have happened, but now is the time that we bring awareness to the need to heal from that, so that we can move on, so that we can forgive both the person or the situation or whatever it might be that, was involved in making this trauma happen, and yourself. Because a lot of times as victims, I know I've been a victim of something, and one of the first things I did was, what did I do? What did I say wrong? Was I wearing something that was too provocative? You immediately go to yourself and start asking yourself, why did I, how did I contribute to this happening? Well, I didn't, but I had to figure out that first of all, and then I had to forgive myself and say, it wasn't your fault. From the way I'm talking, if any of you have been a victim of this, I'm talking about sexual assault or rape. So I had to sit with that shadow for a long, long time, because I was allowing it to control me. I was allowing it to control my fears. It was painting every decision I made in my life. So I needed to gain control back over that trauma. Because some traumas, most traumas, you're never going to get over. That's okay. That's okay. But you can work through them so that you don't allow them to taint every aspect in your life anymore. It doesn't sway your decisions. It doesn't create blocks of fear. It doesn't create blocks of anger or bitterness. To truly work through your shadow is a healing process that involves a lot of forgiveness in a lot of different areas, and it is freedom. It is true freedom, because trauma and all those things are things we carry around as a bag of rocks behind us, and we insist on dragging it. And when we're wanting to rehash it and go through it over and over and over again, we want to show people our bag of rocks, and people will like, well, if you let go of it, it won't be there for you to drag around anymore. But we don't want to let go of it. A lot of times we love to be right even when we're wrong. So I often use the analogy of as human beings, we love to be right. That's what we love, and we love to be right in our victimhood. It's justified anger that we have there. And yes, absolutely, you're right to be angry about that. But it's not good for you to live there. And that's what happens when you start becoming the victim over and over and over again. It doesn't affect the person that hurt you, and that's who you truly want to be affected. But it's a process to get there. And in the end, really, you want the person that hurt you to find a better path, to find a better way, to not be the molester or the abuser or just the mean person. Find a better way. You want them to figure out how to be kinder, how to be gentler, both to themselves and to the world, and that they find that light. And I know that seems impossible for some of the big traumas that some people have gone through. Absolutely. You're completely right in being angry, but it doesn't serve you in any way. And I know maybe you're not in a place ready to let go and to forgive. I know it took me years. Took me lots of years. But at least be open to the idea that what if you were completely free of this? Sort of like, not that it never happened, but like the energy of, it didn't really happen because I don't allow it to control me anymore. Something to think about, because shadow work is healing trauma, is working through the trauma, hurts, angers, bitterness, whatever label there is to put on it. But shadow work is also forgiving yourself, working through your regrets, because a lot of times people who have held on to trauma that are allowing it to paint their situations, their judgments, their decisions in life have regrets because they didn't do this because it was tainted with this. And you are in control of what's tainting your life. You're never going to get over it, but you can get through it so that you come out the other side with freedom, with strength, saying, I am making this decision, or I am doing this action from a place of love and of strength rather than fear and trauma and weakness. So if you are interested in a shadow work course, reach out to me. I would love to be here for you. I'm in the middle of putting it online so that it's accessible to more and more people. It's behind a paid wall, so you have to pay for it, of course. But if you're truly interested in healing and gaining that freedom in your life and gaining that confidence and strength, because a lot of times we're in a very weak place when we're making decisions, thus we get regrets about some of our life choices, and that's part of shadow work as well. It's not just rehashing the trauma. And once we come out that other end and realize, it's amazing what we can get used to, right? Like the pain, the amount of pain, the amount of anger. But when it's suddenly lifted off of us and not there anymore, we look back and go, wow, I should have let go of that earlier. But even when you do that, it's not a regret. That's not a regret, weirdly enough, because when I work through a lot of my trauma, I mean, it's not a one and done. So I'm still, processing but I'm in a much, much freer place, stronger place. I'm not allowing this to control me or for me to be, oh my goodness, look at me, kind of thing. And because of that, I found that my confidence has grown, my strength has grown. I mean, strength of character and emotion and whatnot. I don't avoid conflict, but even when there is conflict, I go into conflict with calmness as opposed to fear. And fear is like the barking dog. I don't go in and go, and start to cry and, get upset and whatnot. I mean, occasionally I do get upset, obviously, but it's funny, like I got upset just the other day, in fact, and I came back from it really quick because I was like, oh, I recognized where I was going really fast, and therefore I brought myself back and was like, okay, so how is this affecting us? And I sat with it for a little while, and then I talked to the other person, and it's all cleared up, easy peasy, right? And it took, I sat with it for a little while, meaning I didn't spend half a day out in the woods umming about it, but I did spend probably 15-20 minutes sitting there sort of quickly kind of now, where is this coming from me? How am I affecting this situation? Why am I going to that place? And it was out of fear, and I explained that to the person I was in the situation with, and they were grateful for the fact that I, took some of that onto myself, because it takes two to tango, right? And I wasn't, trying to say you did this and you said that, but at the same time, it wasn't an apology either. I mean, I didn't really have anything to apologize for, but we both kind of got riled up. So I brought attention to that after sitting with myself and saying, what part of this situation is on me and why did I go there? Now, it's up to the other person to decide why they went there. And we had a really good discussion, so that was good. And in less than an hour after the whole, we're all at each other's faces, it was resolved and totally fine. Water under the bridge, and truly water under the bridge, right? So it was an interesting kind of thing to go through, because I do get those moments of kind of being triggered, as people say, being back in that same kind of situation where buttons can be pressed. And I don't go all the way down the rabbit hole anymore. And I immediately bring awareness to it because I've worked on it so much. So I'm really, really proud of myself for that. And I want to share that with other people that want to also be proud of themselves and have life going smoother, having that freedom, knowing that, everything that you bring into this life, into your life, is you for the most part. At least you're contributing to that. Now, I'm not into the blame game or anything like that. Like, oh, you had a bad relationship, that's on you. It's like, no, again, it takes two to tango, right? And when you're dealing with another human being, there's their energy and your energy, and that gets tangled, and sometimes it tangles well, and sometimes it doesn't tangle very well. But that's what shadow work is all about healing from trauma, from heartache, from abuse, from anger, bitterness, and then also allowing yourself to change to the point where you're responding instead of reacting. And like I said that other day, that situation, I saw that I was reacting instead of responding, and that's what caused me to yank myself back and go, you got to think about what you're doing here, because you're in a reactive state right now. And I went there really fast, probably the fastest I've ever gone to awareness of I'm reacting. So I was, yay me, kind of thing. But it doesn't, like, it's a lifelong thing, but you can get to that point where it's like, oh, really quickly, I know. And then also working through those regrets that you had and forgiving yourself and forgiving those who have wronged you or hurt you or whatever. Forgiving yourself, though, is very important, because you haven't worked on it back then. You hadn't worked on it back then. So of course you're making a decision out of fear and from a weak place. Now you're here in awareness and in strength, and now you would make a different decision, but that's okay. That was part of your journey. For me personally, it was part of my journey because I needed to know the energy that other people, when they're in those moments and situations, I needed to be to have a first-hand knowledge of what it is to be in a situation like that. Where is your brain going? What are you thinking? Because you're not always thinking logically. And people who have read books about different traumas or situations or how to deal with it, or, you know, all that kind of stuff is all well and good, but there are certain traumas where you have had to have experienced it firsthand, because you truly know what it's like to be there. You truly know what kind of energy is there and how the brain is now sparking, and it's not always in a logical way, but it is a way that is often the mind and spirit's way of trying to protect itself, and that's okay. But now we're away from that situation, and now we can think on it, sit with it, and that's what I'm here to do as your Sherpa. I sit with you in those shadows. I understand the shadows. I'm not afraid of the dark. And if you want to take my hand, I'm here to help you out of the muck of those shadows, because it's usually pretty swampy wherever that darkness is. And I will go to that darkness with you on the condition that I can help lead you out, and that you want to come out of it and not just sit around splashing it, which is rehashing it. Okay, so if you want to do that, that's what shadow work is. That's what shadows mean. Okay, hope that was helpful. Take care. Bye.